started helping launch spirits brands with some pretty well-known people, everyone from Beyonce to Charles Barkley and Snoop Dogg. I realized that the food and beverage category has infrastructure problem, and what happens in this space is when demand spikes, the staff they don't have the support that they need to respond to customers quickly. So I built Goals App AI to solve for that problem. And what it is an AI concierge and reputation assistant that answers frequently asked questions.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Build and Breakthrough podcast, where we celebrate founders' successes and struggles. Today, I have with me Aubrey Flynn from the Goals Media Group. He's been an active participant in ATV. He's working on some very interesting technology, and we have him here today to tell his story about how he's gone from being a W-2 employee to a consultant and now as a builder of a product. Aubrey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, first, I want to say thank you, Hunter, for the opportunity to join you here today. It's a privilege, and I appreciate everything as part of that ATV community, especially meeting great people like you.
My
So,
pleasure.
that being said, my name's Aubrey, and 10 to 15 years ago, without dating myself, I started helping launch spirits brands with some pretty well-known people, everyone from Beyonce to Charles Barkley and Snoop Dogg. And after launching vodkas and gins online and whiskeys and leveraging social media, digital advertising to scale those brands, I realized that the food and beverage category has infrastructure problem. And what happens in this space is when demand spikes, the staff they don't have the support that they need to respond to customers quickly, whether it's for a reservation or a review or even just a frequently asked question. So I built Goals App AI to solve for that problem. And what it is an AI concierge and reputation assistant that answers frequently asked questions when the staff is busy. It can answer the phone or respond via web chat and actually book reservations by integrating with Resi, Triple C, and Open Table. So I started about a year ago with this after consulting, and the first product market fit signal that I saw was with a restaurant in New York City, part of the IHG Hotel Indigo network. They started using our platform, and they generated over $500,000 from the leads that we were able to help collect over the web chat, the text, the phone, these multiple channels. So now that we have this really strong case study, right, and that one venue expanded to multiple venues now without us really selling, my job is to raise the awareness and bring this to market in a bigger way with other experienced brands and also with the investment community that is interested in helping solve this problem.
Very, very cool. So for our first segment, do you have any questions for me since this is an extension of the advisory stuff?
Well, I think I would love to know what's the real perspective you have on people in marketing technology that might not necessarily be builders and coders, right? Fundamentally, such as myself, but are now in this new AI vibe coding space where you can get pretty productive. Obviously, you still need a developer. I still have a full stack developer on staff, but I think there's been a certain perspective on people that don't code, especially consultants, right, or finance guys that come into the space. Now with AI helping get some of these ideas off of the ground, do you think the perspective on these founders and builders has changed? And I love that you're an actual developer, so So it's so your perspective might be a little loaded here, but I'm
It might
interested
be
in
a little
seeing it.
loaded. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I personally am biased towards I like more people being available to build overall.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot to kind of go into there. Like the main message that I have for the most part is if you are running a small company, if you're spending time building, that's time that you're not spending selling. In general, like the selling process is a big aspect of how you make money, right? So time not spent selling to prospective employers, to customers, to venture capitalists, all of those selling activities provide feedback on the market, provide feedback on the opportunity that you bring back in, and then you use that as fuel for building as well. So if you're just building in a vacuum, which I know a lot of founders are, in fact, I would say at this particular moment, probably historically, most founders have been just building and then trying to sell afterwards, as
Yeah.
opposed to like sell and build at the same time. The the market is littered with the corpses of businesses that spent lengthy build time before they started selling, because pretty frequently you find out that what we were building has no customers. We had a hypothesis, we invested months worth of capital in the hypothesis, and it turned out to be wrong, and now we're out of money. On the other hand, companies that aggressively sell, even if they don't have anything built yet, generally get the feedback that they need to build what they need to build, and as a result, are significantly more successful. There are quite a few of those corpses littering the market, but that's just because the odds of success are very, very tough, as we both know. But it's all about providing the best platform for success overall, which is to say, like, there's nothing wrong with building. It's just making sure you're cognizant of priorities and opportunity costs. So if you're a founder and you've hit your sales quota for whatever your plan is for the week, and you have a day left over and you want to work on vibing something, that is a fantastic opportunity to accelerate your development, to ideate with your developers if you have developers, to see what's out there, see what the opportunities exist in the building space. But you just got to be cognizant of that's time not selling. And as a result, that's potentially significant opportunity cost. Like if you want to like spend your weekend vibe coding something, be my guest. But the number one thing for all of these companies is you got to identify your priorities. You got to execute on your priorities in order. You wouldn't believe how many people I talk to are they have like a virtual set of, let's say, 10 priorities, and they're working on priority six, seven, eight instead of priority one.
Yeah.
As long as you clear one, two, three, if vibe coding's number four, go for it.
So something that comes up a lot in the space, and I've seen this online, people have spoken to me personally. The idea of starting with a license, or I'm gonna use a word that's somewhat provocative for folks, a wrapper,
Hmm.
or dare I say, white label solution to really take to market to test and learn and find your ICP, because there's a lack of what I think is credibility in the tech and developer community with that approach. But at the same time, as someone looking to mitigate risk, sometimes that's a faster way to an MVP, to vibe code your front end, find some pre-existing tech that you can customize on the back end and really see if you can solve some real problems early on. And then once you get some traction, right? Reinvest in customizing that, hiring a team of developers. When we talk about going from like W-2 to consulting, if I'm being transparent, that's how I was able to make my first seven figures in ARR, right?
Hmm.
It was getting to market quickly, and that included leveraging, some licenses and pre-existing software, and really looking to identify the right ICP. What's your take on that approach, right? Going from B2 to trying to figure out what the needs are, talking to customers, doing customer discovery before you even get into, proprietary build.
I mean, I think that's a fantastic approach overall. I realize probably a lot of engineers that you talk to that aren't me would say like, no, no, you got to get an engineering team, you got to build your thing. But I think anyone that's really significantly worked in the startup space, like 0 to 1, would caution you against that. Like anything that you can do to get customer one, two, three, do what you got to do to get customer one, two, three. If that's white labeling something, that's fantastic. You should have some sort of plan for like making the transition from white
Of
labeling something
course.
because white labeling is not really a defensible position long term. As I'm sure you know, there's a ton of discussion around like chat GPT wrappers and those not being defensible at the moment. Sure, it's not defensible, but if you can build something and you can sell to people a chat GPT wrapper that solves some existing pain point for them, that's fantastic. Get your bag, use that bag to scale your organization. And then at a certain point, you will reach a point of scaling where you're going to need to transition off of the white labeling into something more proprietary. But don't solve tomorrow's problems today. Solve today's problems today and get towards revenue as quickly as possible. So, in your case, talking about W-2 to consulting, what kind of opportunity did you initially see that made you go, "My God, I've been W-2, there's a certain degree of security there." What makes you wanna, go out on the tightrope, take that risk, start something of your own here? 'Cause I think we all see opportunities, but you have to have that moment of, "That is too juicy of an opportunity to pass on. I need to do it now," right?
The year was 2019, and before the pandemic, I just thought the model of going into work was a little outdated. I felt like I had worked with teams across the country. At my job, for instance, at the time, I was the chief digital officer at Revolt TV and Media. We had an East Coast office, a West Coast office, and I didn't really feel like it mattered where people lived as far as our productivity was concerned. We significantly increased our audience by X, the engagement by X. We were able to generate, new revenue with new customers, new clients, and it was fine. So the first thing for me was there's something about agents. There's something about the digital space, right? Focusing on audience development holistically online. I also was seeing that coming up in the spirit space, there's a lot of connectivity to hospitality in real life moments. Things have shifted where people aren't in the nightclubs like they used to be. But when you think about restaurants, bars, and hotels, I just saw a shift in the engagement and the demand for those moments. It was very much this intrinsic feeling that I had that the world was changing. Again, this is like 2018, 2019, before the pandemic. Then suddenly the pandemic hits. See, the pandemic lit it on fire. That's when I was like, whoa, now this is like perfect timing to explore because at first I felt like I was behind. I felt like I was operating in a silo on this idea that not everybody needed and people were at their day jobs making their money and I was here tooling away on my little thing independently, you know, wishing and hoping for success. But then when the pandemic happened, it was like, wow, this is the perfect solution for the problem that we're facing. So how do I now? And people started to get displaced. So there were a lot of people looking to start online businesses that needed education on how to do it. So I began focusing on the technology, the tools, and the training to help those individuals do what I call get over all limits successfully. And that's where the goals
Goals.
acronym really started because there were a lot of individuals that just needed the help and support. So I went from W-2 to consulting, and my network is what really got me off the ground. But one of the first big clients I had was this brand called Indigo. It was a gin by Snoop Dogg. I guess he had started it in California and wanted to roll it out across multiple cities. So we put together the whole digital marketing strategy for that. And I started to tool with software as a service to really bring that CRM, SaaS, marketing, technology to the table for brands in spirits. Next thing you know, I got an opportunity working with Charles Barkley on his vodka to do the same. And, other categories started to show up like wellness brands, THC brands, CBD brands, right? Everything just started to fall into place in this experience category based on my network.
So, real quick about that specifically, was
Sure,
it
sure.
kind of like a process of dominoes falling where you got the first consulting gig that got you out there, you showed results for this particular brand, which then they shared the story out with their surroundings, which calls the next set of clients to spill in
I
and
don't think
essentially
so.
snowball from there? Okay,
I don't think so. And it's funny because that's when I talk to product specialists, like engineers, that sounds very similar to like the guidance that I'm getting now on how to grow my current product and the adoption. But I'll tell you what I think did it for me. I was talking online relentlessly about the services, right? And trying to help people solve problems in a very one to many way through
hmm,
my Instagram channel of like 4,000 people. And what ended up happening was I think I became the person that people had top of mind just by virtue of being in the feed. And
that makes sense.
I learned that really naturally and organically helping grow the spirits brands that I was a part of. I realized that, if you're a small vodka and you want to go up against Grey Goose, you're not going to be able to out market them, in certain
Definitely can't
channels.
outspend him.
Can't outspend them. But if you have your message hitting 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, you're going to stay top of mind of your customer. And that engagement and that awareness ideally is going to help you get more conversions. So I applied that same approach to growing my business originally, and I was able to scale without having 5,000 followers on Instagram to 7 figures in revenue by virtue of focusing on pain points, right? And just establishing a, a degree of thought leadership. Now, obviously, I've been in the industry for years. I've done my talks and my appearances and things of that nature. So I think people already understand my history and my background and they have some context. But if you were to ask me what I think really helped drive that, I think it was the consistency, the frequency of that communication online.
Part of that too is the concept of leading with value, right? You're just showing up and continuing to show up and continuing to show up, not
Absolutely.
nickeling and diming people, but showing up where they are, talking about their pain points and trying to
Yeah.
provide value to them, regardless of whether they're a customer or not. I feel like that approach builds a lot of trust for a lot of founders where, in the economy that we're in right now, everyone is so used to being sold to and frequently hard sold to. When someone
Yes.
actually shows up and provides value and really exists as a member of the community too, part of, we talk about ATV a lot. Part of what I love about ATV as a community is it shows up for you. I really feel like community is everything for founders. The journey is,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, really lonely, and people feel like they have to lone wolf it. But there's so many more opportunities when people show up, right?
I think that's it, man. Like I've tried a lot of different methods of raising awareness, driving engagement, getting conversions. It's safe to say I've tried it all from digital ads to cold calling to cold emails, social media. But I'll tell you what's worked the most effectively in terms of generating leads that will convert. That is going online and talking about someone's pain point and how you want to help them genuinely. And I found that people will stop what they're doing, go to your link in bio, schedule some time, whether it's for a one on one, a webinar, because people need help. So it does, I feel, start with being genuinely committed to adding value to your community.
100%. So we've covered the journey from W-2 to consulting now. What about the move from consulting to being a more product-based builder?
Yeah. So my angel investor started to introduce me to people in his network. And when I started to talk about the business, in terms of what we were doing. They were like, man, this sounds like an agency. Because effectively it was an agency, right? So Goals Media Group is and was an agency. I was leveraging software as a service to get the work done with my team. But in terms of what people were buying into, whether it was LVMH, whether it was Amazon, they were not going into they weren't logging in and using our tools. They were like, you guys do that and come to the meeting with a presentation. So I knew in my heart of hearts that that wasn't the type of business that I was looking to scale.
Yeah, it's very difficult to scale that because you're directly scaling your labor costs, right?
And the biggest challenge for me was that, and this is where alignment is really important. I would hire people and they would tell me, the founder with the vision, that, hey, you're not doing this right. You need to be on the phone with these people and consulting and it. And I'm like, no, no, no. You don't understand. That's not the business we're trying to grow. So it took a while. It took a while, right? There was a lot of of work to get to a place where I said, you know what? We have some great case studies. I've generated millions in revenue, but this is not what I want to do. And either I'm going to continue to go down this path and regret spending another 3, 5 years on it, or I'm going to have to pause and really talk to some people to help me transition. And I happen to really be focused on community. My advisor, his name is Emmett Dennis. He said, you know what? You need to focus on community, building a community, figuring it out in this tech space. So I said, Render ATL was marketing to me on Instagram. And I'm one of the proponents of ads on social media because I think they are personalized. And sometimes you do actually get the right ad at the right time. So I
I mean,
saw
I've
the
bought
ad.
stuff off of ads, so preaching to the choir here.
Come on. So I went to Render ATL and, being new to Atlanta, they basically walked me around Atlanta from event to event. I went from ATV to the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurship to the Atlanta Tech Development Center by Georgia Tech. I really got introduced to all of these tech hubs and communities. I decided to invest in ATV because I don't know, I felt the value proposition just made sense with the advisory hours because that's what I really needed. I needed dedicated consultation on how to make that transition. So I started investing there as a community member. And you remember, Hunter, I was there every Tuesday and Friday from 10 to 12, getting as much as I could get consulting wise to help me make that transition. So everything from my investor presentation to the go to market strategy to defining my ideal client profile. A lot of tough conversations, a lot of brilliant people, a lot of provocative personalities, right? But it
Very
takes
much
a,
so.
I feel like you know exactly what I'm
I
talking
know who
about.
you're talking about.
With love, with love, with love. But yes, that time dedicating and focusing on that, multitasking, right? Because I still was able to start a new business, get to a few dozen customers while testing and learning what I was being advised on during those moments. So started Goals App AI and decided to streamline and focus on a very specific problem instead of offering a myriad of consulting digital marketing services, right? And focusing on that specific problem led me to our ICP and really thinking about like, who was using the system, the platform all day and every day? Who was expanding organically and naturally from one account to multiple accounts? Who was making the most referrals, introductions, right? Like when your customer goes from one account to three in just 3 months and introduces you to their enterprise partner, and then they're with you for a year, no churn, and you're not selling them, it's like, okay, there's something here. And that's what really led to the focus on the ICP and the product.
So, in terms of getting started with the product stuff too, did you already have things like engineering talent inside of your organization, or did you have to start hiring additional personas? And I don't recall if we've talked about this previously, but there's also like product people, et cetera. What was your organizational scaling strategy there?
Yeah, so I've always had developers on board because we always needed web development and design. So it's not like it was foreign to my org chart. It was just the way in which the time was allocated needed to shift
Very
from
interesting.
providing a service to customers to providing a product for an ideal profile.
Now, back to what we were talking about previously, it sounds like the broader consulting really allowed you to delve into and sample a variety of ICPs. I mean, obviously, you were already tapped into sources of pain, but find through lines that were visible across, or maybe not across, but deep through one particular vertical, which allowed you to more easily build a product that fit into that versus I think if someone was less tapped into pain points, they might be a little bit too hodgepodge to really be able to identify a clear uh, thing to build to operationalize some of, well, I don't know if operationalize is quite right, but build a product to take those manual activities out of the hands of individuals and put it into a computer system, which is kind of really that's the core value proposition of technology, software, and
In
AI, right?
general, yeah.
If you're doing the same thing over and over and over, why make people do that? Give it to a computer, and then that solution scales significantly better and significantly faster.
100%, man. I was blessed with the opportunity to work with a variety of businesses and consult a variety of business leaders. And I give AT over at Atlanta Ventures the credit with asking me one question that changed everything for me. He looked at my website and I was so proud of myself, generating millions in revenue, having these big clients on my homepage. And he was like, how many of them are still with you? Just asked me that one question. And I was like, a lot of these brands aren't still with me. Some of them, right? So then I went back and I really slept on that. And I said, why? And I realized that the ones that were power users of the platform were the ones that were expanding, were the ones that were providing the referrals, the ones introducing us to enterprise opportunities. Meanwhile, the ones that were churning, they were churning, right?
Of course,
So, so I had to really be honest with myself about that. And upon further review, talking to more customers in that category, I started to see, wait a minute, they all are suffering from this problem. So let's really pivot because I was looking for the one thing to focus on. And it just so happened that in 2025, technology had evolved to a place where, your web chat, your AI voice could be autonomous and you didn't need to log into your SaaS platform anymore and work out of that software all day. So I think it was a timing thing to an extent as well that really set me up for that transition, as well to me really just listening to the advice and really understanding the nuance of what, product market fit looks like.
makes a lot of sense. Well, Aubrey, I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have any other questions for me at this point?
I want to know what it would take to get Hunter on the Goals App AI org chart. I'm going to ask right here on the podcast
Hmm.
because I need your help, man. It's been a pleasure getting your advice over the last few months. We're looking to build out our team. So if you or anyone you know, and I know you have some experience working with restaurant technology,
I do.
right? I know you do. But this is a call to action, not just for you, Hunter, but for anyone that's really looking to transform this space. As we look at experience brands as a category, but food and beverage as a wedge, right? As we go to market with Goals App AI. please contact me at goalsapp.ai to learn more about what we're doing. And we love to get more amazing, brilliant developers like you and your network, Hunter, helping us solve this problem for the space.
Specifically for my network, I have a couple people that I can introduce you to a little bit later that I know are specifically looking for an opportunity like this. So always happy to
No
make
doubt.
connections at the very least, whether it's me or somebody else. I want to make sure that you have what you need to succeed. But
That was
for
smooth.
everybody listening, this has been the Build and Breakthrough podcast. I think I forgot to introduce myself at the start, but I'm R. Hunter Harris, your host. Thank you very much for listening. Aubrey, again, thank you very much for coming. I hope people got a lot out of this. This was a fantastic conversation that I think is going to be very useful for not just existing founders, but for people that are interested in potentially beginning the founding journey. So I hope you've enjoyed and have a fantastic day. Peace.
Take care, man.